So after yesterday's foreign exchange topic, I think it's a good topic to conclude sort of the balance of payment, right? And the correction of the balance of payment. Bड़े important topics हैं. Correction will obviously come a little later. उसके अंदर fixed cost, sorry, fiscal policy, monetary policy, supply side policy, exchange rate policy, बहुत सारी policies basically. उसको देखते हुए we have to deal with those. So I think we'll do current account today, and then tomorrow we'll deal with these other policy के self-evaluation वाले parts. If we have not done it, because for some reason I have a feeling that we have not dealt with those. फिर हम corrections पे वापस आएंगे. All right, moving on. So देखें जी. Current account, please make sure that you're muted. Identify the components of country's balance of payment. Components of country's balance of payment बोल रहे हैं. And apparently, I guess then this is part of your course. At least you knowing balance of payments में कौन-कौन से accounts. I've dealt with you with this a lot. In fact, we have the current account, we have the capital account, we have the financial account, and then we have the errors and omissions also. Okay, जिससे आपका eventually balance of payment balance हो जाता है. ठीक है. अभी हमने केस स्टडी एक दिया, आई बिलीव नवंबर 2019 का सीडर में, which dealt with Thailand and Australia and how they're trading with each other. I think so वही था. नहीं, sorry, it was about Ethiopia. And it was about कि इथोपिया के अंदर क्या हो रहा है कि कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आ रही है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए फ्रॉम चाइना. इथोपिया में आ रही है फ्रॉम चाइना. उन्होंने, एंड आई डिस्कस दिस यस्टरडे आल्सो, कि किस तरीके से करंट अकाउंट का बैलेंस अलग है और ट्रेड बैलेंस का अकाउंट बैलेंस अलग है. एंड दे आर आस्किंग यू कि जी डिफरेंसेस क्यों है. नंबर 1, ये 3 तुम्हारे कंपोनेंट्स हैं बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट के. ठीक है. आई थिंक तुम्हें एक रफली आइडिया होना चाहिए कौन से अकाउंट में कौन सी चीजें आती हैं. करंट अकाउंट जो कि आपका नेक्स्ट पार्टी बन जाता है, तो करंट अकाउंट में यू हैव ट्रेड इन गुड्स, ट्रेड इन सर्विसेज, you have the primary incomes and you have the secondary incomes. Primary incomes के अंदर you have stuff like interest, dividends, profits वगैरह, rent, stuff like that. And ये primary में है. और secondary के अंदर you have stuff like aid, charity, donation, remittance, free money. ठीक है. Wherever you're going to talk about primary incomes, I need you to give me 2 examples of this. Whenever you give me secondary income, please give me at least 2 examples of this. ठीक हो गया. So identify the components. देखा, identify लिखा है, सिर्फ identify, not explain, not describe, nothing. You should be able to just pinpoint कि बाहर से investment आ रही है, financial account. ठीक है. कोई कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हो रही हैं, फिक्स कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन टाइप की, मशीनरीज, फैक्ट्री बिल्डिंग, प्रॉपर्टी सेल एंड परचेज, कैपिटल अकाउंट. करंट अकाउंट में ये 1 2 3 4 चीजें हैं. You should be able to describe them. What is trade in goods? It's export minus import of visible goods and services like jeans, TV, cars. This is exports minus import of services which are invisible. For example, banking, insurance, shipping, primary incomes I've told you, and secondary incomes I've told you. So you should be very clear with them. Okay, no matter how much you feel कि तुमको understanding है इसकी, make sure that you have a very, very clear understanding of it. How this plus this plus this will give you balance of payment का balance, and this plus this plus this plus this will give you current account. If they've given you current account का balance, already the result of all of them, and they've given you trade in goods and services. The leftover has to be primary incomes and secondary incomes. Plus minus का ख्याल करना, the total should add up to the current account. ठीक है जी. फिर वो कहते हैं calculate the trade balance of trade in goods and services and in goods and services. What? So calculate the balance of trade in goods, matlab separately, export minus import invisible, services, export minus import in invisible, and in trade in goods and services, meaning इसका क्या नाम दिया था हमने? When you add these two together, what do you get? Trade in balance. Okay, जहां पे goods और services को accumulate कर लो, तो trade in balance बन जाता है. If they use the word trade in balance, you should know, okay, collectively they're talking about visible and invisible net effect. Okay जी, moving on. I think आसान सी बात थी. Analyze the causes of imbalances in the current account. Imbalances कैसे हो सकते हैं? Imbalances तो दो ही है imbalances. एक है deficit और एक है surplus. ठीक है जी. Deficit का मतलब है कि जो current account में inflows हैं वो कम है, outflows ज्यादा है. और surplus का मतलब क्या है कि inflows ज्यादा हैं और outflows कम है. ठीक बात है, आसान सी बात है. लेकिन इसको थोड़ा सा perspective में लेके जाओ इन चार चीजों के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. अगर मैं डेफिसिट की बात कर रहा हूं तो देयर आर मोर इंपोर्ट्स, more primary incomes going abroad, more secondary incomes going abroad than coming into the country collectively. लेकिन हमें पता है ट्रेड इन गुड्स एंड ट्रेड इन सर्विसेज के यूजुअली नंबर ज्यादा बड़े होते हैं, राइट? तो यूजुअली जो इसका इम्पैक्ट होता है वही तुम्हारा करंट अकाउंट का एंड रिजल्ट बनता है. यूजुअली, नॉट नेसेसरली. पाकिस्तान के केस के अंदर नॉट नेसेसरली, बिकॉज पाकिस्तान के केस में अगर हम सेकेंडरी इनकम्स को नहीं इंक्लूड करें तो हमारा करंट अकाउंट बहुत ही ज्यादा बुरी सिचुएशन में चला जाता है. बिकॉज सेकेंडरी इनकम मतलब रेमिटेंस, एड और चैरिटी इंक्लूड ना करें तो हमारा बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट बहुत ही बुरी पोजीशन में हो जाता है. So they're asking you the deficit. What are the causes of imbalances? Okay, causes of imbalances. तो पहले ले लेते हैं डेफिसिट. डेफिसिट के पीछे क्या causes हैं? Other than me explaining, inflows are less than outflows. There are more money going out. They say maybe one of the cause could be you have, जो book के अंदर लिखा हुआ है, you have a growing domestic economy. हाँ, there are more less inflows and more outflows, which means there is more imports than export. Now, when our domestic industry is growing, what could be the reason for it? So I want to explain now. हो सकता है because my domestic economy is growing and people are making good money, they want to buy themselves imported stuff. High quality cars, which are not producing in the country, or high quality goods and services, which are not there in the country. Or maybe because the domestic economy is growing, you are importing more and more of raw material and machinery, जिसकी वजह से there's money going out. अब ये अच्छा है कि बुरा है? असल तो डिस्कशन ये है कि ये अगर growing domestic economy है, so is this a problem or not? So that is one thing that you want to discuss in this. क्योंकि whether it's a problem or not, इसको आप दो एलिमेंट से देख सकते हो. एक, टाइम ड्यूरेशन. ओके, इज इट शॉर्ट टर्म or is it long term? If a deficit is short term, masla nahi hai, it's not going to last long. But if the problem is long run, then there's a bigger problem coming ahead in the future. So long run, there might be a problem. Is it self-correcting or not? What do I mean by that? Self-correcting क्या हुआ? Self-correcting ये हुआ कि मुझे पता है domestic industries are growing और आप बाहर से कैपिटल गुड्स मंगा रहे हो, machines, which will help you in the future, in the long run, produce stuff in large scale, which will reduce your imports of luxury goods in the future. And you might be able to export that stuff abroad also. So it's going to be self-correcting. It's not a problem. Problem क्या है? अगर लॉन्ग टर्म के अंदर आप बाहर से ये गाड़ियां मंगाए जा रहे हो और डोमेस्टिकली प्रोड्यूस नहीं कर रहे हो, आप गाड़ियों के कंपोनेंट्स बाहर से मंगा के असेंबल कर रहे हो, लेकिन आप डोमेस्टिकली उन चीजों को नहीं प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो, दैट प्रॉब्लम is not self-correcting. It's going to be a persistent deficit. The bigger the size, the more worrisome it's going to be. But it's an issue. Okay. So growing domestic economy be deficit kar sakti hai. You should be able to argue whether it's going to be long lasting or short lasting. Is it self-correcting or not? Dusra problem that are mentioned in the books is you have a declining economic activity with especially trading partners. Your trading partners are moving to better efficient economies, Bangladesh, India, China. They're buying from them. They're not buying from you now. Your exports are getting hurt, right? Pakistan ka case again, it's unfortunately from this particular point of view, from the current account deficit point of view, we are right now the prime example. I wouldn't be surprised if we case study in the year or next year or two, because now the entire world knows about us to quite a degree. So जब you have a declining economic activity, by the way, this declining economic activity could be because कि आपकी product quality अच्छी नहीं है, आपकी productivity कम है, उसकी वजह से आपकी prices ज़्यादा हैं, you're being competed out, or it could be simply because there is a global recession and countries are not able to buy from you. दोनों तरीके से बात यह है कि तुम्हारा export जो है वो hurt हो रहा है. इसमें तुमने क्या देखना है from the evaluation point of view? Is it something like a COVID aa gaya hai, recession hai, so demand down hai, but when economies are going to get better, the demand's going to rise? So is it cyclical, right? That's a cyclical ka concept, that recession hai, COVID hai, buying kam ho rahi hai, or is it more of a structural element jiske andar you are sort of your domestic economy is it's sort of like not doing so well. I think that would be our third factor. Actually, I should factor in the third factor, जिसको structural problem कह सकते हैं. Yeah, so we qualify for this one also. We have structural problems. Our industries are shutting down. It's not just because of the global recession, but it's also because the other countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, they are doing much more better in terms of this. So recently I've heard that IMF is telling Pakistan that you need to open trade with India. There might be some advantages to that, but definitely certain disadvantages to it also. We should allow it so that changes might happen. Should we immediately abolish the barriers? No, not really. We should slowly abolish the barriers, but as quickly as possible also at the same time, not giving too much time to inefficient industries, just enough time that they know that one of the days the subsidies are going to go away, so that ये जो गाड़ियां बना रहे हैं इतनी महंगी महंगी, कितनी की गाड़ी बना रहे हैं, 60-70 लाख रुपए की छोटी छोटी सी गाड़ियां बना रहे हैं, और इंडिया में आधी प्राइस के अंदर वो गाड़ियां बन रही हैं, तो क्यों वक्त ज़ाया करना? Might as well just buy it from neighboring economy. In fact, what's going on is that Afghanistan wants to progress and they want to buy stuff from India. But the problem is that Pakistan is in the middle. And now what needs to happen is that somehow India should be able to, by road, should be able to cater to Afghanistan also. So a discussion like that is also there on the books, that give India a clear route into Afghanistan, so that trade can happen. उसके लिए आप पाकिस्तान का भी खोलें और आप अफगानिस्तान का भी खोलें. And so we'll have to see what the results are going to be of that. Right now, we're not so keen on doing that. But the more economically we get into trouble, apparently IMF feels that this is the way forward. Okay, abolishing all kind of trade restrictions, and I think it would help us structurally also. It's a long run policy, but it's a smart policy. देखो एक short term policy क्या होती है? Like for example, from our current accounts point of view, imports को रोक दो बिल्कुल, red tapeism and bans and embargoes and high duties, quotas, सब लगा दो, imports को cut down कर. What's going to happen? All the firms which are reliant on imported goods and services, some way or the other, are all going to shut down. What's going to happen? Overall, the economy aggregate supply falls down, massive inflation comes in, problem all across. Fair enough, you've sorted out your balance of payment problem, but at an expense of cost push inflation, stagflation, you could say. Falling economic growth, falling higher prices, falling employment. If you abolish all trade barriers, you can get cheap raw material from abroad. Your structural problem eventually goes away because all those industries which are inefficient shuts down, game over, band, figure out something better, figure out something new, find your advantage in something else. Well, you might suffer greatly in the short run, but in the long run, you might be able to find comparative advantage in something else. Okay? And, you know, the economy is going to reshape itself and the structural issues are going to go away because आज नहीं तो कल international competitiveness आपको चाहिए, otherwise balance of payment का deficit कब तक लेके चलोगे? By the way, just so you know, if you don't fix this problem, where does this problem go eventually? Your country, if you have a current account deficit, the problem is, and by the way, in your essay, whenever you're writing about this current account deficit, now it's a fair idea to एक 4-5 लाइनें और ऐड कर दो कि करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट फुल कहां से होगा. तो ये फुल हो सकता है बाय लोन्स, राइट? यू विल हैव टू बोरो मनी फ्रॉम समबडी इन ऑर्डर टू फिल दिस डेफिसिट. और जब आप लोन्स लेते हो तो इवेंचुअली आपको इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट करनी पड़ती है. तो अगर आपको परसिस्टेंट डेफिसिट आ रहा है, राइट, तो ये इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट्स करते जाओगे, कितनी करोगे? एट द एंड ऑफ द डे अ टाइम विल कम when you have taken so much loan that the interest payments in itself is so huge that you're unable to pay, and maybe then you don't get the loans and you default basically on the loans, and then sanctions comes in and you know you go get into trouble after that. So deficit, there's no way of saying a deficit is not an issue. It might be not be an issue if it's a small deficit or if it's a cyclical deficit. In those cases, I don't see it as a much of a big issue. छोटा सा डेफिसिट है एंड यू नो कि ये सेल्फ करेक्ट हो जाएगा तो मसला नहीं है. और अगर इकोनॉमी डाउन है इसकी वजह से टेम्पररी डेफिसिट है तो वी नो थिंग्स आर गोना गेट बेटर एंड थिंग्स विल गेट फाइन. स्ट्रक्चरल इज द की प्रॉब्लम ओवर हियर. ठीक हो गया. तो ये तो आपके इश्यूज हो गए. यू कैन सी सम मोर आई हैव मेंशन्ड इन द नोट्स under what circumstances the deficits are problem or not. ओके जी, सेम आइडियाज को लेके चलते हैं. सेम एग्जैक्टली इसी को देखते हुए इसकी मैं थोड़ा सा मिरर रिफ्लेक्शन ही कर लेता हूं. एंड लेट मी टॉक अबाउट इफ यू हैव ए सरप्लस. If you have a surplus, we know that the inflows are greater than outflows. Okay. Technically, the exports are more than imports. And in this case, when you have a surplus, you're actually building up on reserves or your currency actually strengthens. Okay. तुम्हारी exchange rate strong होने का chances होता है ऐसे surplus के case में. As far as the causes, what is causing this to happen? Again, you could say a declining if you have a declining domestic economy, इससे क्या होगा? Declining domestic economy. So उसमें क्या हो रहा है? Country recession experience कर रही है. People don't want to buy imported stuff. They can't afford to buy imported stuff, right? लोग कम चीजें खरीद रहे हैं, सिर्फ इम्पोर्टेंट चीजें खरीद रहे हैं. ओके, सो इंपोर्ट्स कट डाउन होने की वजह से X minus M का रिजल्ट बेहतर हो जाएगा. That's one. Currency in recession. Number two, you have increasing economic activity with trading partners. ठीक है, तो अब आपके जो trading partners हैं, they want to buy stuff from you. Maybe they're experiencing boom in their economy, and for them, even your high prices are not an issue. And उसकी वजह से क्या होगा? उसकी वजह से आपकी डिमांड बढ़ेगी, आपके एक्सपोर्ट्स इंक्रीज होंगे, इंपोर्ट्स में भी इंक्रीज आ सकता है. सो यू विल हैव टू मेक अ कंपैरिजन कि एक्सपोर्ट ज्यादा बढ़ा है कि इंपोर्ट ज्यादा बढ़ा है. इस केस के अंदर व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट वी हैव अ सरप्लस, दैट मींस यू आर एक्सपोर्टिंग मोर देन इंपोर्ट्स. You know, हो सकता है कि a lot of people who are living in the foreign economies are sending money to your economy here, primary incomes and secondary incomes वहां से भी आपके पास पैसे आ रहे हैं. तो you know, if Dubai does better or Saudi Arab does better, a lot of expatriates जो हैं पाकिस्तान के who are working over there, they're going to be sending a lot of money into Pakistan, right? Official channels है, not unofficial channel. इस वक्त वापस से unofficial channels खुल रहे हैं, जिसकी वजह से देयर इज अ गुड चांस कि हम FATF लिस्ट के ऊपर वापस से चले जाएं, ग्रे लिस्ट के अंदर. दैट वुड बी एन अनफॉर्चुनेट पार्ट. बड़ी मुश्किल से उस लिस्ट से हम हटे थे, राइट? एंड लास्टली अनदर रीजन फॉर that would be structural advantages, that you are progressing, you are opening new sectors, you're finding new comparative advantages. वैसे बाय द वे जब भी हम बात करते हैं ना स्पेशलाइजेशन की और स्पेशलाइजेशन की खास तौर पे, मेक श्योर एब्सोल्यूट और कंपैरेटिव एडवांटेज को यू ब्रिंग दैट इन, एंड वेरी ब्रीफली ना कि क्या होता है कंपैरेटिव एडवांटेज. जब आप फैक्टर एंडाउमेंट की वजह से यू नो यू आर एबल टू प्रोड्यूस more and with lower opportunity cost being the main thing here. ठीक है, so structural advantages की वजह से, good quality education की वजह से, good healthcare system की वजह से, and because of that you are basically you know doing well technically. So these would be your causes. Deficit क्यों हो सकता है, surpluses क्यों हो सकते हैं, you know, and then after that I think what is the next bullet point? Probably after I've dealt with this one, surplus I've dealt with just now. Discuss the consequence of imbalance. अभी मैं बात कर ही रहा था, मैं साथ साथ उनको problems ही बता ही जा रहा था कि deficit की क्या problems है of you taking more loans and all of that stuff. And then आपकी सारी policies जो है वो related हो जाती हैं. Plus your currency gets affected, by the way. You know, deficit causes your currency to depreciate. And then by the way, जो last chapter हमने किया था, उसमें तुमको advantages and disadvantages of appreciation and depreciation बड़े clearly आने चाहिए कि depreciation के मसले क्या हैं and appreciation के मसले क्या हैं और दोनों के फायदे भी क्या हैं. So you should be able to pinpoint दोनों चीजें, appreciation और depreciation के point of view से, because then deficit depreciate करेगी currency को और depreciation की वजह से एक्सपोर्ट्स बढ़ेगा, इंपोर्ट्स गिरेंगे, उससे AD बढ़ेगा, डिमांड फुल इन्फ्लेशन के चांसेस हैं, बट इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ, एम्प्लॉयमेंट विल हैपन, सो दैट्स नॉट बैड. You know, that would be the advantage वाली side along with the disadvantage वाली side. Appreciation के अंदर बाहर से रॉ मटेरियल सस्ता पड़ेगा, डेप्रिसिएशन में बाहर से रॉ मटेरियल महंगा पड़ेगा, कॉस्ट पुश इन्फ्लेशन आएगी, टैक्सेशन होगी, दैट्स द होल प्रॉब्लम. So make sure ये तुम्हारा ADAS और इसकी जो बातें हैं ना, ये we will be discussing it in the next particular chapter also. But बड़ा गौर से इसको देखना. These are important, very relevant stuff for us. ठीक हो गया. So that sort of like concludes the consequence of the imbalance. Make sure you do look at the workbook also. खास हैं वो सही. All right, just give me 1 second. I want to see one thing. All right. So what I have not done is I have not dealt with fiscal and monetary policy and all of that, right? So I have to talk about those also. Because then that's our later part of, क्योंकि current account के अंदर ज्यादातर MCQs और इसी के ऊपर dealing होती है ना. Fiscal and monetary policy, yeah, that's one thing that I need to go over, and they're pretty lengthy. Let me deal with them tomorrow because I'll have a much lengthier class then. उसके point of view से तो फिर ठीक है. So just give me a day. I'll discuss that stuff tomorrow. आज के लिए इतना ही काफी है. And then कल let's go over it. We'll keep it short today. Tomorrow I'm going to discuss the fiscal monetary policy. बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. In fact, I'll do fiscal, monetary, and supply side also. Just to show you what it entails. In fact, let me just show you. Let me just brief you on that for a moment. It's a lengthy topic also at the same time. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I think इसी में ही बहुत time लग जाएगा fiscal policy में. Fiscal policy in itself is very long. Yeah, fiscal policy in itself has so much stuff in it, but थोड़ा सा short करके I'll deal with that. Let me deal with this tomorrow, not today. If you do get a chance, please do take a look at fiscal monetary थोड़ा बहुत notes वगैरह के अंदर as to what it is. और मैंने क्लास के अंदर वो जो cyclical और structural deficit कराया था, do take a look at that ताकि कल थोड़ा सा जल्दी में तुमको समझ आए. इतना ज्यादा उस पर टाइम नहीं गुजारना, because we have to deal with taxations and all these sort of things also, and eventually make a connection to AD/AS analysis also. Yeah, current account के साथ I think वो भी हो जाएगा फिर. Yeah, कल I think सिर्फ fiscal policy ही होगी, फिर परसों देख लेंगे. ठीक है, we'll stop here for the day.